So today's speaker is Beth Guthrie-Moss, here to talk about how to run for office.
All right, thank you, Sydney. And I just wanted to let you know that first thing, our printer isn't working, so I need to look over here for my notes. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not paying attention to you. I'm actually looking at my notes over here. So my name is Beth Guthrie-Moss, and I used to be known as Beth Moss when I worked at the Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, or BPDD. But when I changed jobs, people started calling me Guthrie-Moss, so I just stuck with that. So I just wanted to let you all know I probably know quite a few of you from my work at BPDD. I did several projects while I was there, and now I am at the UW Wiseman Center, and I'm the coordinator for the Youth Health Transition Initiative. So we work with youth who are ages 12 to 21 and their families, and also medical providers to try to make the transition from pediatric medicine and pediatric doctors and clinics and children's hospitals. So that transition from there to the adult healthcare system. I do some family trainings, I do materials work, I do all kinds of things coordinating that project. And I'm on the same team with Tim Markle. Some of you may know Tim. He does quite a lot of statewide presentations. So I'm also the parent of a 30-year-old man who is on the autism spectrum, and he and I both live in Madison. I also have another daughter, and I just have a brand new granddaughter. So I'm very excited about that. So Sydney asked me to come today to talk about running for office. And what I'd like to do, I just kind of talk for a little bit. And if anyone has questions, since we're a fairly small group, please speak up. I will also leave some time at the end for discussion and questions that you might have. And today is February 21st, 2023. So today is actually election day in Wisconsin. And I'm hoping everyone out there and all of you here are going to be voting today. We do have a statewide election for Supreme Court, and then there are a lot of local elections as well. So it's a very appropriate subject for today, running for office. So I ran for office back in 2007 for the first time. That seems like a long time ago. And then I ran again in 2010 for the same position. I ran for the school board in Madison, seat 3, and I was successful in both of those. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about, what it took, why did I decide to do that, what could you do if you're interested in running for office? So like I said, things have changed quite a bit since 2007. I think, though, that some things haven't changed. So the first thing that I recommend is for you to actually be a voter. So get out and vote yourself, go to the polls, be educated about the people who are running for office, for example, the Supreme Court, and kind of get involved yourself. Also, volunteering in your community, kind of getting to know your community, I think is important, because if you decide to run for office, then you really do need to know kind of what is happening in my community. What are the changes I'd like to make? What's good? What needs to be improved? Who's in charge? Who are the leaders? All those are really important things to think about. Also, it's a good idea to give yourself plenty of time. So if you say, I want to run for city council, or I want to run for my town council, I would give yourself about 6 months at least to prepare for that decision. And oops, I think we lost somebody. Because it really does take quite a bit of time to kind of learn, what does that person do who's in that position? What do I need to do to get elected? It's a good idea to have a reason. Why are you running? Because everyone will ask you, why are you running? And really important to have a short answer that is meaningful. I'm running because something. I want to improve the snow plowing in our town. I want to improve the timing for the stoplights, because people who are in wheelchairs cannot cross the street before the light turns red. I want to get more curb cuts in my town. I want to improve the schools for students with disabilities. All those are kind of ideas for running for office, but you need to have your own ideas. And also make sure that you attend some meetings. So if you decide I want to run for town council, make sure you go to some of those town council meetings, because it may not be what you're thinking it's going to be. The meetings are generally kind of long, and there's a lot of talking, and just, you need to be prepared that this is really what I want to do, and I think I can contribute. Online searches. This is something that when I ran, most people didn't really use email very much. We still use the old phone. In fact, the phone that was attached to a cord. We didn't have as much email. We definitely did not have text messaging. No text messaging in 2007, which is wonderful because you have all that now. So I had to write, snail mail letters to people and put them in envelopes and put stamps on them and mail them. You don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. You can create a text message and send it out to all your friends. Hey, I'm thinking of running for school board. What do you think? Something like that. Kind of find out from your friends. What do they think about that? Probably they're going to come back and say, yes, go for it. Yeah, that's great. And another thing that is wonderful now, we have Zoom. So you can plan meetings with other people who are already on the town council. So you can, it's a good idea to call them or email them and say, hey, I'm thinking of running for the town council or the school board. Could we talk for a few minutes? And ask them kind of what they do. What's hard about the job? How much time does it take? When are the meetings? Where are the meetings? Those kinds of things. And those are the things that really, that's their job, is to meet with you. So they really should take you up on that question to meet with them. You can also think about volunteering for another campaign. So if there's somebody who's running for mayor or for Congress and you really like them, then be a volunteer. Kind of figure out, how does that work? How does this campaign business work? So working on that on a campaign is really, really great experience. I worked on 2 campaigns for referendum for our school district, and I learned a ton about how the school district actually operates. So, and I'm going to just take a minute really quickly, because I see we have a couple new people, and introduce myself, and then I'm going to keep going. Okay. So I'm Beth Guthrie-Moss. I currently work at the UW Madison Weissman Center. And Sydney asked me to come today to talk about running for public office. Very appropriate on election day. I was on the school board in Madison for 2 terms. The first one was 2007. The second one was 2010. So I'm just giving some kind of background about if you decide you want to run for office, like some of the steps that you can take. And I can, if any of you are really interested, you can definitely email or text me, and I can send you my notes, or I can talk with you individually to see if you answer your questions. I would absolutely love to do that. So I'm going to grab some water here. Sorry. So does anyone have any questions so far?
Not really. Definitely sounds quite interesting. I mean, I've kind of thought about it, but not really seriously because I don't have the time currently.
Yeah, it is time consuming. And it does depend on where you live. I mean, if you live in a smaller town, maybe the town council or the school board won't meet as often. If you live in a big city, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison, La Crosse, Eau Claire, those school boards and city councils are going to probably meet more often. So, that's something to think about as well. Campaigning in a big city is much different from campaigning in a small town. If you live in a smaller place, then you probably know a lot more people already. And so it might be a little bit easier to contact people whom people at your church, people at your job, people at your family, friends and friends. Let's see. Yeah, another campaign that is always going on is the Get Out the Vote campaign. So that's one that is very easy to volunteer for. And volunteering usually means reaching out to your own friends. Maybe if you enjoy getting out and taking walks, through people's neighborhoods and things, putting flyers, at people's doors. And that's a really great way to start to get involved in campaigning, and also meeting people who are politically active where you live. I think that it's important too, that when you do make that decision, I'm going to run for office, that you think about, okay, is this person I might be running against, are they really popular? Like, if you think I want to run for county board, and the person who is your county board representative is really popular, everyone loves them, that might be really difficult. Just reality is it might be difficult to win against that person. If there is someone who is stepping down, or if you hear a lot of grumbling about a certain person, that might be a good time to jump in there and put your name in, because people might be looking for a change. So being strategic, having a strategy is really important. And, if you really want to run for office, there's lots and lots of elections out there. There's lots of time. So maybe the one that's coming up, the election coming up in the next year, is just not the right time. Start thinking about it, start talking to people. Like last night, I actually watched some video interviews with the mayoral candidates in Madison. And it was really interesting to hear what they had to say and how they spoke. And I kind of changed my mind about who I was going to vote for. So those video interviews are really important, and that's something you can get out there immediately. I mean, if you want to run for office, start a Facebook page, record a Zoom interview, just talking about, what your beliefs are and why you're running. Those are really great tools to have. Put those on your Facebook page, ask people to share them. Really, the key is to just get your name out there, so that people, when they see you on the ballot, they're like, oh, Jenny, okay, I saw Jenny's video. She sounds really smart. I'm going to vote for Jenny. So that's really how voting works now, because we have a lot of elections. And so if you can just reach somebody for just a moment, then chances are then they might vote for you. If it's a positive interaction, then they just might vote for you. And I'm not saying that's great, but that is reality. I wish everyone were very involved politically and really thought about who they were going to vote for, and got involved in campaigning, but that's just not how it is now. So why did I run? I'll just give you a little bit of background. Now I've kind of told you like what you should think about. When I decided to run, I have a son who is on the autism spectrum, and we had a really great experience in school. And so I thought, gosh, I really want to continue that. There are funding cuts coming up, and I knew that that experience that he had was not going to be something that a lot of other students after him would have, because there just were too many funding cuts. And so I decided that I wanted to be the candidate that would speak for students with disabilities and their families. And it became a campaign for all those students who may be struggling in school, or who may have, at home, may not have a lot of support. And so when you enter a campaign, you may think you know why you're doing it, but then once you learn more and more, your why I'm doing this will get bigger. It will expand.
I didn't pick it up.
So, and I also ran, and I was fortunate because the person who ran against me, we kind of decided we were going to be positive. We were not going to say bad things about each other. And it worked out really well. And we even had, in our debates, we were respectful. And I really liked him. I thought, gosh, if he wins, that's okay. I feel like we're still going to be in good hands. But I did feel like I had more experience, and I really did want to win. So, but I think that being respectful and being positive is super important, because that's what people remember that, and you'll feel better about yourself. When it's all said and done, if you're positive and you feel like you didn't try to bring somebody else down, you'll feel better about yourself. And I think that's kind of life too, really. So I also got started, I mentioned this a little bit before, working in my children's school, volunteering. And then I also worked on the 2 referenda campaigns for the school district, where I said that I learned a ton about how the budget works, how the funding works, why are we cutting funding here? Where can we not cut funding? For example, like utility bills. Well, school districts have to pay utility bills, and even if they increase, we have to pay that. We have to pay it. In gas for buses, we have to pay it. We don't have a choice. So, and I think that adding those things in when you're campaigning is important, because people will come and say, I don't understand why we're paying so much for fuel for buses. You say, well, but that's because the price of fuel has gone up. And so that's what we have to do. If we were going to get kids to school, we have to pay for the gas. So it's, and I think that shows too that you're interested, you're informed as a candidate, and you're realistic too. You know, I think that if you come in and say, I'm going to, every child is going to be in a classroom of 15 kids, you know, that's just not going to happen. I mean, realism is, it's very important to be realistic. So also when I ran, things like yard signs were really important. I don't think they're as important as they used to be. They are very expensive. So if you're going to do a campaign where you decide, I want to have mailings and yard signs, and you know, you have to really raise a lot of money. I think nowadays there are ways to run for office. I mentioned a Facebook page, which is free. A Zoom interview is free. Appearing, you know, asking if can I come to the senior center and talk to the seniors about my candidacy. Can I go to well, I was thinking about like assisted living. I keep thinking about seniors because seniors vote. Going to like an assisted living center, and can I speak to everyone for just a few minutes, you know, on Friday afternoon, and just kind of tell them about yourself so that they recognize your name. Places like Rotary clubs, other civic organizations are wonderful places to meet with people, and they're generally involved, and they might have good questions for you too. So when, you know, and also educating yourself about where you can and cannot go. For example, you can't go to a school and campaign because that's not legal. I think it's important that you understand those things because you don't want to get in trouble. But there are plenty of people who can answer questions like that for you. If you decide you want to run, you do have to get nomination papers filled out. So the first thing you do is download nomination papers that have, and you need to get a certain number of signatures so that you can get on the ballot. And so that's kind of also an icebreaker when you first start, is to send those nomination papers out to people and say, hey, I'm running for county board. Do you mind getting one of these nomination sheet papers filled out for me, and then, you know, give it back to me? And I found that having sending a lot of those out, like a lot more than I even needed, was a really great way to get people interested in my campaign. And other people are doing your work for you. So I might send Mira and Ramsey the nomination papers, just, you know, send those to them in the mail, print them out, and then they can ask people for me to sign those papers so people know who I am. And let's see.
Say that one of my one of my concerns about that is that if you're a non-driver and if you don't have a license, how are you supposed to go out and meet people and get their signatures and do all that? Yeah.
So your question was, if you don't have transportation, how do you get out to ask people to sign? I think in that case, you can sign, and anyone you live with can sign. So anyone who kind of comes into your home can also sign those papers. Anyone who lives in that area. So if you're going to run for town council in Wisconsin Rapids, anybody who lives in that election area can sign those papers. So if you have caregivers who come in, if you have family members, then, neighbors, they can all sign those papers as well. You don't have to walk around or roll around and find people. You can be at your home and have people sign. So does that answer your question, Ramsey?
Yeah, because I wanted to run for office at some point, and I don't want to be a deadbeat donor, but it sounded like I took way too much of a headache because you have to go you have to go to meetings and serve people, and it's like I'm all for advocating for people, but when you don't have transportation, it is very difficult.
Right. No, I agree. That is going to be more challenging, but I think that with all the digital options out there right now, you have, if you have a phone, you can text, you can be on Zoom, emailing. I think that there are actually more options for people who don't have, regular transportation to run for office. I don't know. Do you think that that's true, or what do you think?
Well, if you're tech savvy, fine, but I'm not tech savvy, so it's like, yeah,
Well,
for me to send an email, it would take hours.
Mm-hmm.
well, Ramsey, I'm pretty tech savvy, so if you ever want to run for office, I would be willing to help you with all the social media and stuff.
There you go.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm half kidding, but it's like,
Yeah, and I think, Ramsey, that anyone who runs cannot do it on their own. So everyone needs friends, like Sydney and others who are going to be willing to help, because there's no way you can do it anyone can do it on their own. In fact, it's actually better if you have people who are willing to help, because that means that you have support. I think that's because if you don't have support from your friends and family, it's kind of an uphill battle. It would be hard to win if unless you're running for an office that's not contested, and then you probably will win. So even if you don't do anything, sadly, but there is that, because I think that running for office has kind of gone out of fashion. There are an awful lot of elections where there's only one candidate. So, look out for those too. If you find that your alder is stepping down and no one is stepping in to run, then go for it. I mean, that's, and I'm sorry, I'm sad about that there's not more interest, but it's a tough job. I mean, it's a lot of work and a lot of time commitment. And, if you were to win, then you would need to either be able to go to the meetings or figure out how to join the meetings virtually, make sure that they were, that they would accommodate you to do that, which they absolutely should. So I think that, thinking about what you can get out of running for office. I had been home with my kids and for quite a few years. And so this was my first real job that I had for quite a while. And it really taught me things like being on time, preparing for the meetings, being well prepared, dressing properly for the meetings, being able to advocate for what I believed. And that was really hard for me because I'm kind of shy. I'm kind of a shy person. I don't really, in a big group, I don't really speak loudly or speak up. So that was a challenge. And I feel like it was, I just learned so much. I learned how to be a better advocate. And then it prepared me to feel that I could get another job after that. It really led to making a lot of contacts and networking, and led to my job at VPDD because I had that experience then. So I think that it's really, really great experience, even if you just do one term. And even running is great experience because you do have to think about what you believe in and be able to talk about it in a short sentence, kind of really distill down everything you believe. And we don't always know how to do that, if in regular conversation. Excuse me just a second. So I also felt like I really enjoyed, I love kids, I love education, I love schools, and I had a great time visiting with the school children and the teachers, and it's really, you feel like you're making a difference by being on the school board or in the town council or the county board, or and I think that that's it's hard work, but it also really makes you feel good about what you're doing and gives you a lot of self-confidence. I just remember going into elementary schools and getting lots of hugs from little kids around my knees. And I just loved it. I really, really enjoyed that. And so, yeah. And I even got to speak at my kids' high school graduation and hand them their diplomas. So that was really cool too. So let's see, I'm just looking to see if I missed anything. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel like while you're in the campaign mode, it can feel stressful, but when it's all over and done, even if you don't win, and looking back, you'll feel like you grew as a person and have more skills than you did before you started, and a lot more people. So does anyone have any questions? That's kind of all I had to share. Anyone thinking about throwing their hat in, running for an office or working on a campaign?
No.
Well, sometimes within groups there are committees like the governor's committee for people with disabilities has executive committee, or the People First Wisconsin has a board that people can run for. So there are small committees within committees that if you really want to be a part of them, you can. And everybody has a voice. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, you mentioned committees. I know there's like the governor's committee on special education, and that's, you do have to apply for those state committees. I know, like being an officer in People First, I mean, that's something that you kind of, I would imagine that you need to talk about why you want to do that with your fellow
Yeah.
People First members. So that's a good start. I mean, that's a great start, actually, to just start thinking about where can I take a leadership role? Maybe I can be on a committee, or I can, I'm just trying to think of some examples. I'm like kind of going blank, but different organizations have leadership, the autism. So if you're a member of the Autism Society, they have board member, they have what's the word I'm looking for? Leadership roles. So president, vice president, those kinds of things. That would be a great place to start too. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I live in a very small town, so if I ever did run, I'm sure there wouldn't be a whole lot of competition. Because I think I saw a town chair had an opening, and I thought about student council, but I'm just a little bit busy right now, between all my jobs and figuring out schedules, and I wouldn't want to get involved and then not have time for it. So
Right. I think it would be, it's not, you could go ahead and start asking, like, what is the time commitment? Like, it could be that it's just, a couple of nights a month. It could be one night a week. I think it's it might not be as much as you think it's going to be, or it might be more. And then you think, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to wait until I'm more settled. So yeah, I think that you all would be fantastic. You'd be wonderful additions to local government and local organizations. Joining the Optimists, that's the club I was thinking about. I know they have officers as well. I think that would be a great experience. And I know that schools really appreciate. In fact, I was watching a video last night of someone running for school board in Madison, and she talked about how she would love for people who don't have kids in the schools to be involved. And I was like, wow, that would be great. Imagine getting involved in like your local PTO, at the high school or at the elementary school. They would love to see someone there who is from the community. So I think just trying to think creatively about, so what do we have in my town? We have schools, we have church. Maybe some churches have deacons, they have certain committees. Being on one of those committees would be a really good experience as well. I think that there's a lot of leadership options, and usually there aren't that many people who are wanting to do it. So if you volunteer, you're probably going to be welcome.
It says, this is not a political statement, but he said, you'd be good on our People First board.
Do you have a who's on your board right now?
I'm on the board, but Larry Brown is on the board. Ashley Matthew is on the board. There's a ton of board members.
Okay. So you have So this is the statewide organization, right? You all are from all over.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Huh. All right. Well, I would love to, I think that'd be fun. I like all those people. I'll have to, do you all have a website where you can have information about applying for the board and
Yes.
things?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. I think there might be stuff on of the boards. Does anyone else know if there's stuff about?
I don't,
I'm not
but
sure.
it might be in the chapter portal. I haven't checked that out recently, but
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Ramsey.
I think Ted Morris would be good too for our board. So just a heads up, Chaz. Yeah. Can you tell him that in the chat, Cindy?
yeah.
Mhm. All right. So I know we had a couple of people join, Lawrence and then somebody else with the Jushkaj. I
Yeah, I think that's Jane.
Jenny. Okay.
Jane, yeah.
Okay. So I'm Beth and I work at the Wiseman Center at the UW-Madison. And I was talking about running for office because I was on the Madison School Board for 2 terms back in the, I don't know, 2007, 2010. A long time ago, it feels like.
Yeah, it does, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Beth, I had a question about, you were talking about the Zoom interviews you
Mhm.
would use. How did you prepare for those? Did you come up with the questions? Who did you find to interview you, and kind of your process with that?
I had people who were on the school board already who helped me out. So it's a good idea to find an ally, who's already there. And they had been through the whole, campaign and the election. And so they had ideas for questions. And we practiced. I went over to a friend's house and we would practice the interview. Of course, you could do it by Zoom now. We didn't have
Mhm.
Zoom then. And I think, it's interesting because I remember we did an interview, the same interview that I was watching last night, but we had to go to a studio and there was a camera and a light and oh my gosh, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous.
Mm.
And now I think, now most people are really on Zoom a lot. And so it would feel much more relaxed, I think, to have
Yeah.
that kind of an interview. So I think that's how I did it. I think now you could go online and watch probably 2 or 3 interviews and figure out what the usual questions are.
Yeah.
Why are you running? What in your background prepares you for running?
Mm.
What would you change? Those kinds of things. And if
Right.
something like school safety would be a big deal in your community, there would be a question about that. If something like, I don't know, in a town, maybe, I don't know, zoning, something like, oh, this, people really don't want this to be zoned commercial, but this company wants to come in and build something. Well, how do you feel about that? I think that would probably be my suggestion. And friends will help. So, yeah.
Okay.
And so I have one more difficult question. It takes so much money to run for office. I mean, if I don't want to run, but if I did, how do you get the money to finance the campaign? Yeah.
So financing a campaign and getting money. There are several options. One option is that if you have a few $100s extra, then you can lend that money to your campaign. And then you can ask friends, you can ask others for donations. And then those donations can pay off that loan. So then you can get your money back. That's the ideal. And I think that if you do decide, I'm going to put some of my own money into this campaign, that you make sure that you raise that money back, because you don't want to put your own money in. You really don't. So if you decide, I'm going to put $200 in because I want to buy some yard signs and put them in strategic areas, then have a donation, have something on your Facebook page asking for donations. Ask, don't be shy. Ask your friends, can you spare, $5 from your friends? Ask your family. You can print cards that ask for donations with some of the money that you lent yourself. And the other option is just to start out by asking for money and donations, and do that. I think like I said, the Facebook page would be the best place to do that. If you are tech savvy, if you have somebody who could help you do a website, websites are really good, or just a web page. Websites are good. They are good for having a donation. Click on here to do a donation. I do think that given the digital age we live in, I just don't think that you need as much money as you did, when I was running, because when I ran, everything was paper. So we had to print cards, we had to design cards, we had to print cards, we had to print or buy yard signs, because that was the only way to really get the word out back in the old days. But now we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have websites. You have your phone with a text message. I mean, how many of you, I'm getting so many text messages now about this election.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just, and all those are free. They take time to do, but they're free. So I would hope that that wouldn't hold you back from running, would be money. So, but I think too, that your friends are probably willing, just say, hey, instead of buying a coffee, could you give me $4 for my campaign? Kind of put it in that context. Instead of going to McDonald's and spending your $5, how about, contributing to my campaign? So. Anybody else?
Well, if there's nobody else, thank you again for coming and speaking. I really enjoyed your presentation. And it's recorded, so look for it on the YouTube channel.
Great. Thank you everyone for this opportunity. And like I said, contact me if you're interested in running. All right. So, yeah.